All right. To welcome everyone from home and those here in the chamber to the August 12th, 2026 the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have two adjustments to the agenda, one for hiring and of the committee that we take those together. Okay.
Yes.
Superintendent Robinson.
Yes, we have two adjustments, D1B authorization and E1E for donations.
I have a motion.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
6-0. Thank you.
Okay, next we're moving on to public comment. First, I need to read a statement. Members of the public may address the school committee for up to 3 minutes on school and education matters. Public comments shall be directed to the school committee and be brief and not repetitive. The school committee's practice is not to respond or debate with speakers during the public comment period. We are here to listen. The superintendent or her staff will follow up on comments outside of the meeting as appropriate. The committee will not permit profanity or shouting and requests that speakers be civil. Discussion of specific personnel or student matters and complaints concerning specific employees or students will not be allowed, but will be addressed through established policies and procedures. Before speaking, we encourage speakers to review School Committee Policy AC, which provides that the committee does not and will not discriminate nor tolerate discrimination against students or employees on the basis of membership in a protected class. Speakers who share comments contrary to this policy will not be allowed to continue. Before starting, please state your name and place of residence. Do we have anyone here for public comment tonight? Is the mic on? I don't think the mic is on. Yep, it turns green. It should. No.
That works.
Anybody help?
It's still red.
Oh, it's green up there.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, my name
Thank you.
is still Alexandra Hendricks. I am a resident of Bangor with 3 children in the Bangor schools. I have just gone over briefly the Fairmount School Assessment materials that were sent out, and I'm looking forward to hearing more. I have a couple questions in particular, and again, I know this will be discussed, but since this is the public question period. One is, I see there's a statistic about statewide students lost over the past decade, but I'm curious what the Bangor specific statistic is, and Bangor specific projections. And then I'm also wondering, and this seems like it's probably built into this, but I just am hoping to confirm that with the district-wide facilities enrollment study planned, that will include the projected repairs necessary across all buildings, since I know that regardless of what's decided on Fairmount, we face aging, deteriorating infrastructure citywide. And so and we've talked about this a little bit, but I'd be concerned about, if it's spreading students over our existing schools only to face another situation similar to this in too short a time. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have anyone else for public comment tonight? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to superintendent's proposals and updates. We have action items. First is approval of student handbooks. Superintendent Robinson.
I'm recommending approval of the 26-27 student handbooks.
And I have a motion.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion or questions? Member Cook?
I just have a couple of thoughts, and this could be for an iteration of the handbook that comes out in in the next upcoming school year. I did notice with the SEER bus information, I know this is a third party, and I think it should be made very clear to families that how that communication will come to them. I think it is a little bit more clear in the high school's handbook, but sometimes there is a delay in when families receive that information from SEER bus, which can be challenging when trying to address something with your child. So that was the first. And then the second, we emphasize in all of the handbooks that it's important for the family or caregiver to be engaged with the teachers and the school. I think it would be worthwhile for us to kind of dig in the handbook or maybe in a different avenue to talk about what that looks like. So what does it look like from admin? When will they communicate? When will teachers communicate? Why would they communicate? And then how can the parent or caregiver communicate in a meaningful way, or what's important to communicate? Because I think not all families know when the appropriate time to communicate is.
Thank you, Member Cook. Other questions or comments? Vice Chair Bryden.
Thank you very much. Quick question. Last year, the handbook was obviously all available online, and the students received a QR code that families would have access to year round. Hopefully, it'll be easier to stick on your fridge than losing a big handbook. Is that still the plan this year?
We plan to maintain that consistency, yes.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Other questions or discussion on the handbooks? Member Speed.
Yeah, just a couple of comments and observations. I really like that these are consolidated to grade levels. I think that's a really wonderful improvement from previous years. And a couple of notes I think would be easy to take care of is making sure that we choose one font across the handbooks, making sure that the branding is consistent for colors and legibility and ease of reading. The personal electronic device graphic in the high school handbook, I think, is easy to read. I think it could be enlarged in the other ones. So my understanding is that we're approving the content, not necessarily the formatting. Is that correct? So formatting could continue to happen.
Correct, yes. And this has been an ongoing process. Yeah. So we've consolidated a little bit this year. And the overall goal is to ultimately have one handbook for the school department and then links with to the specific schools, because there's so much that's consistent and the same from pre-K to 12.
Great. Nice. And I appreciated the links to policies specifically, and I would encourage on final formatting, if there's any policies that could be directly linked that aren't, I think that's really helpful. It's the difference between 4 clicks and 1. So.
Great. Thanks, Member Speed. Member Sprague.
Thank you. I just want to offer a word of support for the fonts and branding. It might sound like a small thing or kind of a nuisance, especially to people that are preparing all these newsletters and things that go out. But consistency across that creates the sense that it is a unified school district. And every interaction we have with parents, families, and community members can either reinforce the confidence they place with us or create some doubt or, vast middle ground there. But anything we can do to reinforce consistency and competence in all of our communications, I think only helps our institution, and it helps parents and community members to feel confident in us. So I just want to offer a word of support. I think we can lean on Ben's professional background a little bit here and for guidance on, there's so many different Ram logos, for example, and so many different mascots that I think that we could refine that a bit and have some consistency in what we do.
Thank you, Member Sprague. Vice Chair Bryden.
Thank you. Sorry, just a clarifying question. I know that I asked if the QR code was going to be sent out, but am I right in understanding this will all just be online? We're not printing out.
Oh, no, we don't print all.
Okay, that's
if someone requested a printed copy, we would accommodate that.
Right.
But
So
they're
if
not printed.
the formatting looks different because it's, wide margin on this page, it will not look like that because it will be online.
It will be online.
Okay, thank you, which I think is also important to know with the links as well. So thank you very much.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor?
6-0, thank you.
Right. Next, we're moving to motion to authorize the superintendent to hire Superintendent Robinson.
I'm recommending a motion to authorize myself to hire staff between August 12th today and September 10th. This is to ensure that we have full staffing for the start of the school year. When there's a break in between the meetings, sometimes staff who are looking to enter the school department don't feel comfortable putting in their resignation until the school committee has voted, which is what we recommend. So doing this allows that process to continue without the school committee temporarily.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Member Cook?
Do you have a sense of how many vacancies we currently have, and specifically how many education technician vacancies we have?
I knew someone was going to ask that, and I will defer to, I don't know if Director McAlpine has an idea for ed techs and maybe any, I think the buildings are pretty well one. We've got one at the high school still, but I think the 1, 2, 3, okay. Oh, we've got a handful. Yeah, we've got a handful still that we are interviewing for, so yeah. That's actually pretty good. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate the teamwork.
Anything else, Member Cook? All right. Other questions on this item? Member Luciano?
I just wanted to compliment the process of this. This is a brilliant bottleneck remover. This is like, I'm very, very happy we found a way to find a solution for this. And I super appreciate that there is an end date on it as well. Thank you for being clear and transparent, but I know every year this is sort of a churn and it's nice to see a solution. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions, discussion? All those in favor?
6-0, thank you.
All right, next we move to informational items. First is the Fairmount report. Superintendent Robinson.
So our Fairmount report, as you know, was shared out, is going to be into a little bit more depth with Director Hale is going to present that presentation. We have Randy from Carpenter Associates to answer any questions. Again, this is a comprehensive view of the needs that currently are, I guess, preventing us from being in the school safely, phase 1, and then in phase 2, some of the longer term pieces that we would be looking at as we move forward in future years. So I will turn it over to Director Hale at this time.
Do we need someone to help with that? The mic's
Oh,
on.
there it
There it is. Yep.
I
Okay.
think it's a little slow.
Yep, so I'm Director Hale for Director of Business Services here. Last week, you all received a extensive report from Carpenter Associates Consulting Engineers, a longtime partner with the Bangor School Department. And today I have gotten together a report that will summarize all of the details that you have been shared with that 32-page report. So hopefully that will be able to make the information a little bit more clear. And I will pause at certain points and give you an opportunity to ask questions. Feel free if you need clarification on anything, you just have me stop and we can go along that way. Okay. So just a little bit of information on the Fairmount School Building. It's 47,000 square feet. It's a multi-story facility serving 4th and 5th grade students. It was established in 1919 for the original structure with an addition in 1949. It's 100+ years old. It's built of unreinforced masonry, concrete slabs, wood framing, and structural steel components. And it has been determined that it's gone past its useful life, and major building systems have exceeded their expected service life. And we will go through some of that. So this presentation is split into 2 different categories. There's phase 1, which discusses safe reoccupancy. Phase 1 will identify the repairs and improvements necessary to restore Fairmount School to a safe, secure, and sanitary condition before students and staff can reoccupy the building. These are immediate and critical repairs required before students and staff can safely return to the building. And then in phase 2, this is more long-term improvements following the safe reoccupancy. These are items that would need to be done more long-term to make sure that the building is structurally sound. So we'll begin with phase 1. The identified hazards for the hazardous materials, there's asbestos in the building, the annex ceilings, the soffit overhangs, and likely classroom blackboards. There could be more asbestos as projects move along. Mold, there's basement water intrusion and roof leaks actively creating potential growth conditions. And then lead paint, there's suspected lead paint throughout the building and peeling in classrooms and around the windows. And it's noted that abatement must precede any construction that happens in phase 1. So on the next page, there's a couple pictures of some of these items that were talked about. So some peeling paint above the ceilings in the classrooms, some of the suspected mold mildew at entrances, and some more peeling paint in the classrooms. Speaking to the water intrusion and roof failures, the roofs were installed 1995 to 1996 are well past their useful life, with widespread leaks and into the walls in the classrooms. The foundation moisture migration causing peeling paint and elevated mold throughout lower levels of the building. And then roof drains tied to the domestic sewer system backups occur during heavy rain events. Combined roof and foundation failures represent the most urgent structural water threat to the building. So these are all items that are infiltrating the ceilings and the foundation portions of the building. And here are a couple photos to demonstrate what that slide pertains. So there's a floor drain. This one's specifically in the cafeteria where some water does back up into the cafeteria floor. And this is from the sewer system. Failing concrete sill, this is just a demonstration of the foundation's failing, and then peeling paint on the concrete throughout the basement. So this is just a sample of what you might see in the basement of Fairmount. And then some more suspected mold. These are caused from leaks in the roof. These were taken in some of the bathrooms. And then structural concerns that need to be addressed. The roof framing is at risk as 1919 timber roof framing is likely under design for current main snow and wind load requirements. A formal structural analysis must be completed before roof replacement can proceed. I'll elaborate a little bit more on that. It's not just as easy as saying that roof is old, we need a new one. There's other things that need to happen as far as the infrastructure inside the building as well that you'd need a deeper look at. The masonry deterioration, brick walls show cracking, spalling, failing mortar joints throughout the envelope. Rusting steel lintels above the window and door openings compound the risk of further structural damage. So here's some examples of the structural damage and concerns. You can see the cracking and shifting in masonry arch. You can see the more leaking causing from the roof failing. And then this is what it looks like in between the ceiling and the roof framing. So outdated. The fire and life safety gaps, exposed wood joist framing and basement with no fire rated covering, non-compliant interior finishes, including wood paneling throughout the annex. Fire doors and alarm systems have exceeded useful service life, and missing handrails and inadequate clearance on stairways. And you'll see a picture here that shows The stairways missing handrails. This is the annex. It has that wood paneling, which is not fireproof. And then these stairs here are not encased, and that is something that needs to be done for safety purposes. And then again, inadequate clearance and hand railing. So some notes on the interior finishes, the ceilings, again, all the ceilings have suspected lead paint because of the age of the building. There's visible water damage in those areas that we talked about with the roof leaking. And exposed framing that requires repair or full replacement in many areas. The kitchen ceiling is unsanitary. It is also peeling. There has been leaks in there. The makeup air system is also needing to be completely redone to meet the health code and ventilation standards. And then in areas of Fairmount, there's carpet throughout the building, and that poses an active mold risk where there's any water damaged areas, and the full replacement of the carpeting is required to prevent that. So after the phase one total, this is what the cost of all of those corrections would be estimated at 17.43 million, and it's broken out by category. Sorry, you can't see the bottom of that chart, but so the estimate from Carpenter Associates is that it would take just the construction would be 12 to 18 months, but there's also the prep work of designing and ensuring that you know the work scope is out there. Then we would have to bid out, we would have to potentially bond, all of those things. There's a lot of details to be ironed out. And I think we've discussed it before, keeping in mind that additionally, in order to bid out projects and have them start during, you know, optimal time in the school year, it would need to be done ahead of time versus, you know, cutting it close with timing. So that's very important to note on that timeline. So I'll stop there. And is there any questions on that particular phase?
Questions on phase one for Director Hale? Member Speed?
And just to summarize, reading through this report, it's pretty astounding to see the repairs that are necessary to go into just getting people back into the building. Why we have flat roofs in Maine, I'm not sure, especially on schools. And if there's brick walls, asbestos, mold, lead paint, water intrusion, stop me, correct me if I'm wrong, foundation leaks, glass blocks that are collecting moisture, fire safety concerns, kitchen sanitation, right? Carpet issues. And I just had one curious question, utility trench. I'm not sure what a utility trench is. So if somebody could explain that to me, I'd love to better understand what that is.
Sure.
Randy?
Randy Bragg from Carpenter Associates. So
Randy.
in that school, in a lot of your schools, you have a utility trench that perimeters the building. In those trenches usually is a path for utilities, water, sewer, electric, sometimes, not usually, but lots of times it's used for baseboard heat. So you have hot, steamy pipes in there that have been there for 100 years. So those trenches are pretty nasty as well. In those trenches, because of the environment, the pipes tend to corrode very quickly. They've been there 100 years. They tend to start leaking, makes the problem worse and continue. So the trenches are basically access points for utility, for water, sewer, heating, those kind of things.
And so are those trenches exposed? Are they
They're below
not
the slab,
protected?
below the floor.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions on phase one for Director Hale? All right.
Okay.
Please, thanks.
So we'll go on to phase two. So again, these are things additional to phase one that would have to, you know, those were the basic things to get it back to occupancy status, but these are additional. So the deficiencies identified in the flooring is the subfloor condition requires inspection for structural soundness, meaning, in this picture, it's demonstrating that's a subfloor that does not have structural soundness. And as you can imagine, under some of the carpeting and some of the other flooring, that would all have to be things that need to be considered and looked at to ensure that whatever's being placed on top of that would need to be structurally sound. Electrical and technology, the lighting requires updating to improve efficiency and energy code requirements and the improvement of the intercom units. So here's a couple of examples of the electrical. So this is outdated wiring from an intercom unit. This is knob and tube wiring in the attic. And if you have any questions about that, I will have to defer that to somebody else as well. And then this is obviously an outdated intercom system that school currently has. Site and security, the traffic pattern for the student drop-off and pickup is hazardous. Anybody that's been around that school knows that it can get a little congested around there. Site drainage in the parking area inadequate and contributes to foundation issues. So again, we talk about the foundation of that school. There's also some of that parking lot that's causing some more of those foundational issues, so that would have to be addressed. And then the main entrance is not a secure entrance, and it would require renovation on that. And that's a picture of the main entrance. So it doesn't have the airlock and things of that nature that are required for the security. Fire and life safety. So that was discussed in phase 1, but this is the extensive, portion of it for phase 2. The emergency lighting and signage needs to be upgraded. The stairwells need to have upgraded enclosures, which we saw in phase 1. And the sprinkler and fire alarm systems need to be upgraded, and fire door replacements to bring everything up to code, which you'll see this is the sprinkler system in there, and that is outdated and that would need to be brought up to code. And then this is just a general picture of the poor conditions in the basement of the piping, and you can see multiple things going on in here. And, some of the foundation, the fixtures, the emergency lighting, things like that. Plumbing and restrooms, the floor drains back up. So I demonstrated a picture of the cafeteria one. There's other floor drains that back up from the sewer system because of the infiltration of the tree roots in the front are actually infiltrating the sewer pipes in the front of the building. Corrosion and scaling of galvanized piping throughout, again, aged pipes. Missing insulation on piping causing energy loss and potential freezing. So not good for any pipes freezing in the state of Maine. And restrooms are outdated fixtures and non-compliant with ADA. So here is a picture of the plumbing inside the wall joists. This is a picture of a non-compliant ADA bathroom, so that would need to be updated. And then ductwork insulated water lines not secured or properly insulated. So that would all need to be repaired and replaced. The envelope and egress, exterior walls lack continuous insulation and weather-resistant barrier required by current energy code. Existing windows fail daylight egress and energy performance requirements. And the annex siding is in poor condition, requires full replacement. And in the full report, it does go into detail about the different levels of the window replacement and things of that nature. But here's a few examples of some of the dated. There's a lot of peeling, cracking, paint, rusting. Boards are falling away from the building. That can cause for, water, critters, just about everything to get in between there. And then again, the outdated non-code windows. The HVAC and ventilation, we need to replace the aging classroom and library unit ventilators that provide the indoor air quality. Installed balanced mechanical ventilation with proper filtration and air distribution throughout the building. And we'd have to address areas with limited or non-mechanical ventilation, including further investigation of the kitchen makeup air, as well as the replacement of air handlers and the replacement of non-functioning boiler and deteriorated steam piping and condensate lines. So here's a couple of pictures of the outdated air handler unit that would need to be updated. Some obsolete heating units that are throughout the building. And then this is a non-functioning boiler. There's two boilers there. One is fairly new. Not sure on the age of that, but that one is non-functioning. So after phase two, the total cost of phase two is broken out in a similar manner. And the total cost for that phase is $21.69 million. And that's the construction costs. So any questions on that phase? Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yep, Member Sprague. No, Member Bryden. Sorry.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Obviously, everything that you've shared with us is incredibly comprehensive and detailed. The pictures are very helpful, albeit alarming. So thank you very much for the work to put this together and share. I understand the identification of what's most important to get students back into the building. That said, hearing things like fire and life safety and ADA, accommodations, those, I think for most people would think like a more immediate need. And I recognize that you're putting these into phases because we're looking at the bigger picture. Is there a timeline when phase two would start? Are there elements that would maybe adjoin with phase one if this were a direction that anyone was at all interested in going? Or are we thinking that, phase two would be far down the line?
So I think, obviously we would want to pay attention to phase one first. And those are those immediate concerns. And as you said, the ADA bathroom, that is important. And a lot of the other schools in the department, we are making sure that we're putting those projects ahead too. So we're trying to be compliant with many of those things that have become outdated or things have changed. So then I think it would take a broad look at both phases, to be honest. I think you would need to kind of see which ones need to be worked on it simultaneously.
Okay.
And it would take a little more research and a little more engineering on some of these things, because we may get into it and find out that some of these issues are bigger than
Right.
than the first look can give
Yeah.
us. So
I think that's what we're all anticipating, just
it's
ever
kind
having
of-
watched HGTV, you kind of know that you're going to open up something and it's going to be forward. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, initially that is like a base estimate, that 12 to 18 months for phase one, plus the 3 to 6 months for the preparation of that. But then you got to think, if you're doing preparation for the phase two items, that's also going to take time and energy and do all those things. And,
Money.
obviously money.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to go through bonding processes, and the city has specific regulations around that. So these are all things that are gonna have to be considered. So
Yeah, I appreciate just knowing all of the information. We can't say yes to phase one without knowing what to expect with
Right,
phase two,
absolutely.
especially because those elements are so critical. And just really quickly on the bid out and bond period, I saw that in phase one, there was like this design period of 3 to 6 months. Does that start, forgive my ignorance, does that start after the bidding and bonding is done and then the design will start?
So essentially it would start with the committee's decision, right?
Mhm.
This is what we would like to do, and then we would have to go from there. It would depend on how the financing would, if it's something that was decided to be bonded out, then yeah, we would have to, we'd get legal involved, and they would have to draw up papers, and city's legal would be involved as well, because they would go through that process with us, because we have to follow their
Mhm.
rules. And
Yeah, thanks for that clarification. I
yeah, no
appreciate it.
problem.
Member Sprague.
Thank you. I've never had a very old dog, but I imagine this is what it feels like to get a bad report from the vet on your aged dog. This is kind of sad to hear as one who loves Fairmount, and seeing those pictures brings both nostalgia, but also, sad emotions about the state of this building. I think we all wish we could go back in time 25 or 30 years even and have a true active facilities committee that could have been way out ahead of this. I would say in defense of previous school committees, it was always largely budgetary, and it was always those hard decisions that we now face of cost versus preservation of the neighborhood schools. And we have so many other needs as a school district that it's hard to think about pumping so much into facilities. And I'm just going to say this, and I think what is a realistic way, that close to $40 million to fix up one building that serves two grades on one side of the city is just not realistic. And it pains me to say that, but I don't think it is. If this, and I think, as others have said, even this evening, we're probably going to be looking at something similar at Mary Snow pretty quick, if not simultaneously. That's my basic comment. I want to reiterate something I've said all along, others have said it as well, that whatever comes next, I want to preserve as much as we can, to the extent possible, the concept of the neighborhood schools. I know state funding is complicated. It does not necessarily incentivize lots of small schools around a community, but it is a core part of the DNA of this school district. It's why so many of us have chosen to be here, because we love that our kids can walk to school, or it's a short ride, or there's a sense of community there that is unique to that part of the city. I don't know how much of that we'll be able to preserve, but I want that to be top of mind throughout the conversations. I have some ideas of my own on how we can do that, but I'm going to just defer and listen. But I think that we have to be realistic about these costs, especially what might come following these costs. And you are right, the HGTV phenomenon. I've worked on a lot of construction projects in my professional life, and from the banking side of it, they all go over budget. They all do. Now, there's some pretty good contingencies built into this, but not so much that you could shave out the contingencies and make it all work. So
And I do have further slides that outline those contingencies and kind of show you what that looks like as well.
I didn't even want to see phase two.
Probably,
right?
but-
But thank you.
Thank you, Member Sprague. Member Cook?
I'm not sad. I'm mad. I'm mad that we had educators working in a building like this. We had students learning in a building like this. So I just want to go on the record saying we've heard so many families talking about the experience at Fairmount, and clearly it was not the building. It was the educators making that experience. So I think we can retain that because they are still with us, and whatever choice we make, we retain them. And so therefore the experience will be there.
Thank you, Member Cook. Member Speed?
Yeah, looking at this list is astounding, and it's, as folks here tonight and watching from home, seeing these pictures and living likely in old buildings in Bangor themselves are probably scratching their heads and thinking, wow, is that bad that looks like my attic? But you want to be mindful, obviously. I appreciate that this is built out into two phases. It looks like this phase is really addressing the traffic congestion, the stairwell codes, the ADA compliance, security concerns, the flooring, the fire doors, and restroom damage. I'm wondering if we could have somebody speak to what is energy efficient versus what is code that we need to fix. So LED lightings would be great to have in every space for efficiency, for savings reasons, environmental reasons. How much of phase two is code related and how much is nice to have because it's efficiency or just
And I see
That's
what
up to
you're
date.
saying.
Mhm.
And we've actually gone over this question a couple different times because, you know, even when we talked about the suspected lead paint, it's like, well, just take care of the lead paint and make that safe again. But in order to do that, you need to start with the roof and you need to do this and do that. And so if you're going to invest in a building, you would want to make sure that the energy efficiency is there. But like when, and Randy, you can feel free to speak as well, but like when we talk about the piping, that not being energy efficient, that can, lead to pipes breaking and things like that. And then you're talking about more and more costs and damage to, so if you go and fix all of these things and then you didn't, make this specific thing energy efficient, then that could potentially cost more down the road or ruin the work that you've already done. So, and this is a layered approach, right? So, it's sometimes not as simple as being like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Sometimes you have to change the plan and it gets directed to a different, way because this might take precedence now because something's come uncovered. Does, you got any more to say on that one?
Yeah, somebody had mentioned there's an awful long list here and there's a lot of things that are related and a lot of things we still need to figure out which order to do things in. But I will say, depending on what you want to do, once you reach a certain level of disturbance, somewhere in the code, somewhere it says 50%, you're on the hook to bring everything up to code. So things like you have no insulation in the brick exterior walls at all. You have no water barrier there at all. So just imagine trying to go around that and put R20 or R21 insulation somewhere inside or out, and just the cost to do that. While you're doing that, you have to replace the windows to meet the energy code, the new energy code. You have a couple hundred windows at least. I know you replaced 125, Josh, a few years ago. So yeah, so code will kick in when you touch phase one, you know, if you decide to go that high with those numbers. So you're gonna be on the hook to bring up some of these other things to code as well. So the level of attack that you take will dictate really a lot how far you have to go.
I saw you put the sprinkler system either in 1 or 2.
Yeah, so you'll notice in our report, we kind of copped out on a couple of items that might be determined to be more priority to some folks than others. So those numbers are a little conservative because we show those numbers in both categories. I think it's number 6 and number 9, but they have to be done in one of those categories. And if you determine that's priority 1, then it's phase 1, but eventually it needs to be done. Does it make sense to do it during phase 1 when you're replacing the roof and replacing, you know, the sprinkler system? Probably. So you don't have to do it again sometime. So I'll just add that.
Thank you.
Got a quick follow-up.
Yep.
Don't go far. I'm not sure if I want you to look at my house, Randy, but
She doesn't want me to look at them.
yeah. So the HVAC system, if you could speak to that specifically, 2007 and 2024. Tell us more about the HVAC.
So the HVAC system does not provide, in general terms, the required fresh air ventilation for the entire school to meet the ASHRAE standard 62.1. Again, that's a MUBEC code requirement to meet that fresh air ventilation requirement. You have CO2 sensors that can monitor that to see what the level is currently. You have essentially no makeup air for your kitchen equipment. That's why there's the issue there. Any air you exhaust, you have to replace it with fresh air, essentially. So I think some of the things making it better than it really is there are things are leaking. You know, it's an older building, so the windows leak a little bit. Some fresh air comes in and takes care of that fresh air, not mechanically, it's natural. That's not allowed anymore. So it has to be mechanical, continuous operation. You just don't have that now. Everywhere. You have in a few locations, but not everywhere.
You're all set. think we're ready to move forward.
Okay, I just have a few more slides, and this discusses more of the finance end of things. So in the report, it talked about what we just discussed in phase 1 and phase 2 for the costs was the construction costs. And then we talked about what it would, there's also construction contingency, as we mentioned. There's also permitting and design fees, the bidding, advertising, administrative costs. There's going to be legal fees. There's going to be commissioning, testing, and then also another relocation. That's just another piece of that. So trying to think of all of the additional costs that may be incurred other than just the basic, let's fix this building costs. So then I broke it out in, so the phase 1, that's how much was determined, the estimated construction. This would be the additional soft costs for a total of the 27.54 million. Same thing with phase 2. These are the soft costs that would be additional because of all of the extra contingency percentages for an additional for a total of 34.27 million. And then totals up each one of those, and for a total estimated at 61.81. So if you chose to just do phase 1, this would be the estimated cost of that. If you chose to do 1 or just 2, that's would be that, or everything all together, that's about the estimated cost that you'd see right there. And again, very estimated, more research, more in-depth look at things needs to happen. So that's just a breakout of what that slide explained. So then we're talking about scenarios and potential next steps. There's many things that you as a school committee, I'm sure, think about all the time and have been thinking about it for the past months. So we've outlined a few things on here. Commission a district-wide facilities and enrollment study before committing capital funds to Fairmount School. We're in the process of the strategic planning that is encompassing some of those pieces in that already. Evaluate Fairmount alongside other district buildings, including Mary Snow School, to appropriately size the elementary school portfolio. So kind of looking at the larger picture, again, strategic planning there as well. But these are all things that you want to kind of think about simultaneously while we're looking at Fairmount. Before funding the complete phase 1 and phase 2 scope, compare the building's life cycle renovation costs with the costs of the new construction at the existing site or a consolidated location. So alternative options. Keep Fairmount students at Bangor High School for the 27-28 school year. I think this phase and it's kind of identifying that this Fairmount school is not going to be habitable for even the next school year, according to these research findings. Recognize that main DOE major capital construction funding is not a viable option under the current timeline, as the process takes approximately 10 years. I do hear a lot of people saying, what about that new school? We are far, far down on the list, and that is not something that we should even entertain as a consideration. Communicate all anticipated costs, including construction, soft costs, contingencies, and temporary relocation to the taxpayers before holding a bond vote. So again, we've discussed the community, what was called, where we have the community sessions, the listening sessions and things like that. And, obviously getting input and things like that. So, yes.
Member Cook, please.
I do have a question about the DOE major capital construction funding. So the application process doesn't take 10 years.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm wondering if it would be worthwhile. I don't know if the assessment of the building was as comprehensive as the one that we were provided. Things have changed. There's also going to be a new governor coming to town. New legislative session. I know that this is a topic of conversation, so I do think it may be worth our time to get our name in that pipeline again, even if we're in the top 10, just in case.
So I believe we are in on the list. We're just really far down on the list. And I know different things can change that, but that cycle isn't even opening for a few more years to even be selected. And I get like legislature could change, something could come up next year. But at that point, it's kind of more of like, how long do we wait to start making these decisions and these repairs on these schools to hopefully get funding? You know, I think that's more of the question that has to be asked there. And as far as the 10-year cycle, it's a matter of waiting for the application, going through that process. And then even when you finally get selected, there's a process that the school committee and Bangor School Department would have to go through in order to get that to come to fruition. And that takes years as well.
And then second question, if I may.
Please.
Has there been any estimate? So let's say we bond the 62 million, make all of those repairs. Is there any estimate on what it's going to cost us to maintain that over time?
So for the bonding of that, is that what you mean?
If we made all of those repairs, the 62 million, phase 1, phase 2, is there any, I mean, are we, excuse the phrase, putting lipstick on a pig?
I have not gotten to the point of calculating what that would look like if we bonded out that amount. Just because I feel like we need to get to that point first before, you know, I can certainly look into that as well, but.
I have a question, actually. It's related to 1 and 2 from this slide. And first, I want to say to Carpenter and Associates, I found this report incredibly sobering, but also just incredibly informative and helpful to us as a decision-making body. So I really appreciate it, and I appreciate your really clear presentation tonight as well, Director Hale. So my question is, and I believe, and I know many of us believe, and it's been mentioned, I feel as though Mary Snow is an incredibly important piece of this puzzle going forward, particularly around discussions and listening sessions and facilities decisions. Are we thinking of doing some type of assessment similar to this of Mary Snow School in the pretty immediate future? Is that a possibility, and is there a willingness for that?
I think we absolutely need to. Yes, knowing that that building is a similar condition, similar age. I think the strategic planning process will bring that to light. I also know that the Department of Education offers a cost analysis procedure for schools to go through that we could participate in as well for both schools, for any of the schools, but that might be a pretty lengthy process. I'd have to look more into that, but that's definitely an option. I think it's important to do that, yeah. Oh.
Oops. I was just going to add that a few years ago, you had a report done by Oak Point that looked at all 10 of the schools. We were involved with that, helping support them in a facilities role as well. That report identified 3 schools, Fairmont one of them, Mary Snow, and Down East as your worst 3 schools. Mm-hmm. And to consider doing something 10 years ago, fairly drastic, if you will, given the condition that they were in. So we've been lucky enough to upkeep your capital improvement plan over the years. And many of these items you've seen tonight are on that list, and almost take this and put it over on Mary Snow pretty close, except you spend some money on Mary Snow to fix a couple of those items. So yeah, I would encourage you to quickly do what you think you need to do assessments or more detailed assessments on the other schools as well. Because when you look at the average age of all your schools, they're pretty old, and you have 10 of them, and a couple other buildings. So it's when I hear this presentation, I think, okay, times 10. And I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but you know, I'm always the pessimist, right? Because case scenario. Mm-hmm. But again, you really should be thinking about those things down the road if you really want to be proactive instead of reactive. Mm-hmm. That's just my 2 cents. I don't live in Bangor, so.
No, we appreciate your 2 cents very much. Thank you. Vice Chair Bride, or did you want to say anything else on this?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that we are looking into, through the strategic planning process, doing further assessments. And that would be something that we would hope to accelerate the timeline so that that can be considered. Because certainly we can't develop a strategic plan that talks about, what we could do with all of these buildings without knowing the true needs of those buildings. So that is something that we are looking into right now.
Vice Chair Biden?
Thank you. That was half of my question, Superintendent Robinson, so thank you. I know that we had talked about, or, we had been shared information on an RFQ being sent to do these assessments for the other schools. And if I was reading correctly, the idea is that the timeline would make it so that, within the next 5 months, we could have an idea. Is that fair to say, if we got an RFQ?
Preliminary information that I've received says that, with the RFP, if we can accelerate that timeline, by early 2027, we should be able to have facilities, studies on all of our buildings.
Okay. Who would sort of start that process? Is that a board vote? Is that a recommendation from you? Is that the strategic planning team? Where does that yes, let's put this out and see if we can get these numbers?
That would be something that we would be discussing. And if that's the desire to move forward, I mean, I would recommend it. I think that's necessary for the RFQ. We don't have to put that out that doesn't have to be a school committee vote.
Okay.
That's something that I would highly recommend moving forward so that we can have all of the information. I think that's been the biggest challenge, is trying to get the information in a timely manner to be able to make the best decision. And, we're kind of, we're in a, we're kind of backed into a corner right now with our timeline. And that's presenting additional challenges, which again is, I tremendous thanks to Carpenter and Associates and being able to pull this off rather quickly because, again, it's a timeline. So, and I just want to add too, that we have to be mindful because none of what we're doing right now was in our budget. So, and we talk about those, we have to be, and these are the conversations Director Hale and I have had, is, being mindful of the costs that are being incurred, not only with this to the assessment of Fairmount, but also with the redesign of the high school, which, has quite a ticket at this point as well.
Yes, thank you very much for that clarification, because I think, to Randy's point, the times 10 figure does obviously come up for all of us in thinking about this. And I'm trying to align the different timeframes that we're working in. If we're, if half of us are thinking, okay, we need to go get this, bids and bonds out for phase 1, the other half is like, wait, we need to wait for the the studies to be done for the facilities, gathering all the information in a timely way that lines up so that everybody feels like they can make the most informed decision. That said, I do also believe that this is an incredibly thorough, detailed report that I think answers a lot of the questions I had about the direction to go in terms of looking at what I would like to invest in and really understanding not only, what needs to be done for Fairmount, but then, yes, looking at those pictures and recognizing similarities in the other schools that we've been in over the years and seeing that this is going to be something we're coming up against for all of our district buildings. So the timing of that, I think, is going to be critical for us to just know what's coming down the pike and when, and who's going to be saying go.
I think we're already going.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we are, full steam ahead and let's figure this out. And I would say, in a few moments when I do my report, I'm going to ask Mary Budd to come up and talk a little bit about our strategic planning process. But yes, this is all kind of happening right now. And, we do need to move forward. We do need to be timely in this to make sure that, I have 100% confidence, maybe I'll say 99.9 because people like to quote me. So a lot of confidence that by the, early months of 2027, we'll have a plan. That is the goal because, as was mentioned, with the Oak Point study, and I'm not trying to bring up a lot of the past, but here's where we are now. And we need to make those tough decisions. And, when we talk about, I know it was questioned earlier, I think through email, but about academic excellence and pathways to excellence. Well, the learning environment is huge to attribute that. So, I mean, if we're we're redoing our strategic plan, we're refining, we're revising, we want our students and our staff to work in places that they are really, feeling comfortable, feeling safe, and, as best as we can, maintain a high quality and, ensure that things are up to date. I could go on about the respect of the teaching profession, but I know Mallory would jump right in, or Member Cook, sorry. But we need to start looking at that, and and it's so important to provide that level of respect to our students and our staff. That yes, we value the environment in which you're conducting your profession. I mean, would you go to a hospital that looked like that? I mean, I don't think so. So it is a tough spot, but I think that the students are worth it. I mean, we've got to do what it takes to make sure they're in a safe environment.
Thank you.
Member Sprague.
Thank you. What are our plans to communicate this out to the community and also staff within the different buildings that are maybe most affected? People are still hopefully enjoying their summer vacations at this point, and as we saw in the spring, people come to the conversation at different times with different levels of information. What are we doing to get out ahead and really lead the narrative on this?
Well, this information has already been shared with all the staff. That's gone out already, so they're aware of this. In terms of next steps, as the strategic planning process continues, there are going to be regular updates provided. We have a meeting tomorrow at 10 with our strategic planning committee to detail and set out those next steps. We have listening sessions scheduled for August 24th, 31st, 1st, and 2nd at various locations across the schools. And that will be an opportunity. We wanted to present this information so people have as much information as possible, and then conduct those listening sessions, and then through the strategic planning process, come back hopefully on, I believe the 10th, September 10th. We talked about potentially having some preliminary information from those listening sessions and then go from there. But the communication will continue. I send out my monthly, bulletin if we are requiring further, and then we have our twice a month meetings. So yes, that's all going to be populated, and we have our updated strategic plan webpage where that information will be housed as well.
Member Cook.
On our Fairmount updates page, forgive me, I forget what it's called, but would it be possible to maybe have Director Hale's presentation or a truncated sort of
Yes.
the Carpenter and Associates report with emphasis on the pictures, because the pictures did it for me. And I think for a lot of our community members, if they see that, they will understand the extent of the issues.
Yes.
Thank you. Member Speed.
Yeah, I have to chime in on communications. That's definitely my lane. I think it's once we have a direction that we plan to go in, having a clear communication plan in place will be helpful, defining the goals and objectives, strategies, tactics, how we're going to evaluate how we communicated with the community and taxpayers, and then making sure that we've designated a spokesperson for that project. It's big enough, I think, to make sure we have those things in order. I had a couple of additional questions. Is it all right if I address those? This piggybacks off of what Member Cook had alluded to, and I'm hoping that either a sliver of daylight can exist with the main funding, and I'm not sure, is it possible to go to the previous slide so that we can see the 5 recommendations? Or the door can be closed, right? And just really, really emphasize that this is not possible. But I'm just curious, after we do, and I do recommend doing the district-wide evaluation of facilities. I think that's a really good idea to have all that information in front of us before we consider this funding along with enrollment. But after looking at all of that information, is there a scenario where we look at that and we look at more than just a few buildings that need attention? that, in fact, a new district-wide school would be worth bringing to the state?
I will honestly, any kind of opportunity that comes my way, I will definitely look into it. We're always constantly, even portions of this, we are reaching out to our grant writer, anything we're saying, what are out there for funding for HVAC? What's out there for funding for this? So anytime there's an opportunity, we're usually right on top of trying to figure out how we can get it and make it work for the school department.
Because I can understand where we are on the list of the state schools, and I know Mary Snow is higher on the list than Fairmount, as shared by the school committee members here, and I just want to make sure, right, that we can put that to rest, like we can put that behind us, that state funding is really not viable, or is it? Is it possible that if we were to look at all of the schools and say it's going to be more than a few schools that we need to look at, and that may bump us up well beyond where we are?
Various bits of information that put us to the top there too, and obviously schools that have lost their school to fire, that bumps them right to the top, and different criteria like that. So would some of these things bump us to the top of the list? Possibly. And we are working with another firm that works with getting a lot of the Department of Education funding, and they're very familiar with the application process and things like that. So we listen to their guidance a lot too, and they are letting us know when funding opportunities are available or when they go away, because sometimes that's happening too. But so yeah, we will, whatever we can do.
And I just want to add about the construction funding. There has been all last year, there were superintendents involved, regionally representatives looking at the construction of schools. And it is a specific topic that's being studied in the state of Maine because of the aging buildings across the state. And they're trying to determine other methods that can support the funding. But right now, like for example, the school revolving renovation funds, that funding is only available based on kind of like the probably not specifically professional way that it would explain to me was it's like the leftovers, and then they dole it out to the schools. And that's not what we want, right? We want to be able to have a more viable process that will help to bring the schools up to, at least, closer to modern if we possibly can. So that's actively being worked on. I think what you were speaking about was, say, if we decided to consolidate like 3 or more schools, would that change where we were on the list? And we can double check that. We can certainly, there's a phenomenal team at the DOE, the facilities team there. So we can definitely double check that. My general understanding is probably not, because the school, I think the first one or the first 2 were funded, but then there was a fire and then that bumped somebody off. So it happens that quickly. So people in that particular district thought that they were going to be slated for a school, and then there was a fire somewhere else. And then they said, I'm sorry, we can't assist you at this point. So then it goes back into that rotation. So it is, it's a very helpful process, but it's a very lengthy process. And given the state that we are in right here, having, the concerns that we have, I hear what Member Cook is saying to see if we can get on that list, and I'm not opposed to doing that. I just don't want that to be the Hail Mary we're hoping for that's going to save everything, because if we wait for that, we are going to be in another situation where we have to suddenly close and rehouse students, which certainly no one wants to experience that again.
Thank you.
Member Sprague?
Thank you. I would just encourage us to be in really close communication with our state representatives and also our congressional delegation. They should be aware, I'm sure they are, but this is not a problem unique to Bangor. This is all over the state. And I don't know if there's some larger discussion about the appropriation of funds for aging schools. And we need to be at the top of mind in those conversations. So our legislative delegation, it's whoever becomes the next governor, and it's our full congressional delegation. They all need to be aware that this is really a key concern for the schools, but honestly, the property taxpayers in Bangor as well, and in many other communities. So I think we also need to have the philosophical and strategic conversation. I know that's part of the strategic planning process, but I just flashing forward, there may be funds available, but sometimes it attaches to consolidation of schools. And I don't know if the community wants that. It's an open question. I'm asking it rhetorically, but we have to anticipate those questions about whether we want to seek out funding that there's probably not funding. There's not going to be funding $40 million for Fairmount. There would not be $60 million for a 4-5 school, even if you combine the 4-5 schools. There may be funding for like a pre-K to 5 citywide school. Do we want that? We have to start talking about that.
Member Cook?
As we are engaging our elected officials, so Janet Fairman was here at our last meeting from MEPRI. MEPRI did a study on policy and practices for funding school construction, and there are a lot of recommendations there, which we are not doing as a state. So if you would like to engage your elected officials, you should see that report and bring up some of those points.
Thank you. Member Bryden?
To sort of bring this all together, I do think it is on all of us to do a better job of communicating with our city and our city councilors as well. They just created a legislative committee that is trying to identify those goals for the city. And if the schools aren't a part of that conversation, then we're going to continually be in this bubble of feeling really isolated when it is a citywide decision. And to that point, I think it's going to be really critical to make sure that these listening sessions are available to all citywide individuals, because every taxpayer should know that this is something that we're thinking about. Every taxpayer, you might have a baby and think, yeah, maybe you're going to have to be part of this school-wide consolidation by the time your kid gets in school. And that's going to be really important to you to put forward what you think is most important. You might be a taxpayer that's been here and not had kids in the schools ever. This should matter, and you should be informed of this. So whatever we're doing to communicate with the city to also push these listening sessions out and to engage at a legislative level is going to be critical.
Yeah, we can connect with the city to put it on their page for the listening sessions. I think that's a great idea. And we did, thanks to Dr. Harris Medberg, we did coordinate with the BHS library, William S. Cohen School. There's a Dowdy cafeteria and the Down East cafeteria. So we have 4 different locations. Then we have 3 evening events and 1 during the and at a 10 a.m. session to account for families who may work in the evenings and not be available. So we're trying to ensure that we make this available to everyone. And I also do connect with the city manager in terms of legislative priorities. We connect on that. So I'm always sharing things with her. Yes.
Member Speed?
I want to thank you for that. I work on Monday evenings, so I appreciate being able to attend the Monday morning session as well. I wanted to just also put something else to rest, and this is something that I think is important for the recommendation. I know we're not voting on any of this tonight. This is informational, but the Fairmount school relocated to the high school this year. The recommendation on the previous slide was to have them housed next year. It's clear we're not going to, if we put it out to bond, we're not going to be ready for Fairmount students to go back to that campus. If you could talk a little bit about the importance of having clarity for next year as we figure all of the rest of this out, or is there a scenario where we don't have any additions or renovations necessary, that we have campus capacity next year to house students, perhaps in a creative way that we haven't explored yet?
I think the work that we've done in the spring kind of exhausted the other options in terms of, unless there was some disbursement and internal consolidation happening across the schools, because those were the ones, those were the 2 options, whether, being housed at the high school altogether as the Fairmount students and staff, or being dispersed and then shifting grade levels, that impacted a number of grade levels. And that would be tight, but that's another possibility. I think that's something that we have to determine again after hearing from the listening sessions, hearing from the community, and then determining through our strategic planning process what direction we want to go.
Yeah.
And I don't think we can predict that. I think it's a little premature to make any predictions beyond, the 27, 28 year.
Yeah. And I know we're not voting on this, but it seems important for the Fairmount community
Mm-hmm.
to have predictability, not just for this year, but for next year as well.
Absolutely.
Any other questions on this report? Member Cook?
Do we have a goal for how many people we want to engage or how many new families we want to engage with these listening sessions?
We haven't set a specific goal, but I'm sure Mary can speak to averages of what we look for, because we certainly want to. And again, it's been is a tight timeline, but this is kind of where we are. So we're hopeful that as many people come out as possible.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My place here. We are moving on in informational items to the superintendent's update. Superintendent Robinson.
So a few updates. We do have a transportation webpage that's being created. Is it live?
It is live.
It is live. So we can get that shared out. And that was designed by Director Finney and Director Hale to help to streamline I'm sorry, the cameras are distracting me. At least it's not zooming right in, right? Like it did last year. The transportation webpage, what we've done is taken, SEER does a great job of coordinating all the stops and making sure that information is conveyed to us. And what we've done this year is taken it and made it a little more user-friendly so that families can access the webpage and be able to determine where their stop is in approximate times. In terms of administration, administrators are working very hard to prepare for the upcoming school year. Schedules are constantly being refined and revised to make sure that everything is ready for students. We have our administrative academy next week, and we'll be working with our school core competency teams to develop goals for the school year. We're going to have some legal updates from a representative from Drummond and Woodsum, and then we're going to discuss the book that the administrators read this summer called Digital Delusion. In terms of the district, the strategic plan update, at this point, I would like to call Mary Budd up from Starboard leadership to give us an update on that. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for having me. I feel like I'm playing largely to the cameras because you school committee members are now quite well familiar with this process that we've set forth to build on Bangor's strategic plan. Would you like me to provide an overview of that process?
I think that would be great, yes. And then maybe a timeline as we discussed. Yeah, thank you.
So we are currently, the department rather, is currently midstream in its strategic planning, recognizing that it has a long-term goal to guide us in this process. With almost laughably bad timing, the department issued a 10-year plan in May of 2020. So I can imagine that plan was well in development as COVID was lurking in the wings, ready to disrupt everything with a surprise that nobody anticipated. Nonetheless, that plan really well captures a lot of the guiding principles, the values, and the mission that has driven Bangor schools historically and since that time. So it's a valuable document as a guide. Where it falls short is in its lack of specificity. And so since May of 2020, we've not only weathered the pandemic, we've seen a leadership transition. we've seen this emergency concerning the Fairmount School. And all of those illustrate the dynamism of the current landscape. And so all organizations are well served by strategic plans that bring the horizon in a little closer. 3 to 5 year plans are typically what we advise. And so after getting acclimated, the superintendent was really looking for a way to develop a shorter term plan to more meaningfully guide the work of the Bangor School Department. So this process started last fall, I believe, certainly got into full swing over the winter with these listening sessions that we've heard about. 26, I think, sessions in all, yielding a tremendous amount of data and engaging a lot of community members citywide. We've heard about those findings. They'll be taken into consideration as this plan unfolds. This plan, which will address the entirety of the school's operations. So certainly teaching, learning, social and emotional development, that kind of thing. But those sessions did not specifically address facilities. And frankly, I get it. All of us know Bangor has an aging infrastructure. It's done its best over the years to keep it maintained, but there's nothing like a crisis to focus one's attention. So during those prior listening sessions, facilities weren't raised as a specific area of focus. And we now know that that was an unfortunate oversight, and we're looking to remedy that. So we have created a strategic planning committee designed to be broadly representative of the community. We have administrative leaders, school committee members, parent, community members, but we've, as I suggested, kept the committee reasonably small so that we can convene regularly and get the work done. Larger committees can be a bit unwieldy. So that committee kicked off mid-summer. I subsequently facilitated a workshop with you all, the school committee, to really focus on the school committee's role in strategic planning. What are your roles and responsibilities versus the superintendent's and administrative leaders' roles and responsibilities? So we had a good session concerning those topics on August 3rd in great anticipation of this report that we've been talking about and hearing about tonight. So with the Fairmount report, with those findings now in hand, as the superintendent has shared, we are prepared to get to those community listening sessions focused specifically on facilities. And we are aiming to structure those sessions not only to share the information specific to Fairmount, but to facilitate a broader conversation about our network of schools and our current school structure, and to solicit ideas, to field questions about what the future of Bangor schools could look like. The upside of all this is that there's an opportunity to imagine a new infrastructure that will serve teachers, students, and the community at large. So those are the kinds of conversations that I'm looking forward to having the end of this month, the beginning of September. We are acting with great urgency, recognizing the seriousness of the challenges, but we want to make good decisions, not just quick decisions. So we will be doing the best we can, incorporating the data from the facility discussions into all the other data we're looking at. And the planning committee will be driving the development of a strategic framework over the course of the fall. That framework will include either affirmation or revision of Bangor's mission. It will articulate a clear and compelling vision for the next 5 years, meaning what success looks like in 5 years' time. And it will identify a small number, probably 3 to 5 strategic priorities that will focus the department's efforts over the next 5 years. And we expect, again, that those goals will run the gamut and touch on all aspects of the school's operations. Those goals will be set by the superintendent and her team with advice as needed from the committee. And we will be sharing at appropriate junctures throughout that process with the committee and the public at large. Once we have a strategic framework, ideally by the end of this calendar year, then I'm ready to support the superintendent as may be needed to translate that longer term plan into an action plan for year 1.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Member Speed.
Any questions?
We'll give you just a moment. Yeah, please. I do have one, actually. Wait just a moment. Would you, is it safe to say, or can you clarify for us, will the focus of the upcoming listening sessions, will the focus be the 20, what's going to happen in the 2027-2028 school year in terms of the Fairmount student population, faculty and staff, whether they will remain at Bangor High School or there'll be something different, some type of integration plan that similar to what we discussed this spring. Will that be the focus, or will that be one part of the conversation? And you'll be also soliciting opinions, ideas, and attitudes on longer term potential facility plans?
Yeah, I'm anticipating that we will certainly share information, our expectation concerning the 27-28 school year. But I'd rather focus the time on a longer term plan as we have other areas of operation and taking a more holistic view of the facilities than simply Fairmount.
Thank you. Member Sprague?
Thank you for being here. Nice presentation. My question may be for you or it may be for the superintendent, but I'm just wondering, what is the end game of the strategic planning process? Is it that the committee recommends its findings, its report, its recommendations to this group, and we adopt that report? Is there back and forth between this group and the strategic planning committee? I just want to kind of retain our own role here too a little bit and recognize that we are elected and we should have a voice in this too. We have had a voice in the construction and formation of the committee, but I don't want, with all due respect to the committee, I want us to be able to also have influence and some discretion over the future strategic plans as well.
Yeah, what we're anticipating is an opportunity to have a second workshop with the school committee. I said we had one on August 3rd that really focused on what's your role and responsibilities. We hope that later in this fall, again, hopefully before the end of the calendar year, we can present a draft strategic framework and have some discussion around that.
And we also have our 2 members on the planning committee. So I think funneling and keeping the lines of communication open as, those periodic updates that Mary spoke of, I think that will be important to voice concerns, to voice opinions, but ultimately the school committee will vote on the strategic plan.
And I imagine, but correct me if I'm wrong, it'll be a similar first reading, second reading process.
Yes.
Member Bryden?
Could we add the strategic planning committee to the committee updates to just share what's appropriate along the way?
I think we can talk about that tomorrow to see if it will align with the twice a month, because I'm not sure in terms of the timing if we would always have something, but it's certainly something that we would want to include.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other? Yeah, Member Speed.
Yeah, I think how you teed it up with the listening sessions is a good way to go. I think having it as open-ended as possible. Folks that are going to come are going to be aware of what's going on and what is possibly ahead for us. And so not necessarily having any preconceived questions or proposals, just having an open discussion, because I think people will be aware of it, and having us present at those discussions will be helpful. And it's going to be centered around facilities. I know that we've really captured a lot of data on the other points of the strategic plan. But I would remind folks that it's not just about the buildings, that it really should be student-centered, not just building-centered, obviously, in our decision-making. So I think that's going to be those are going to be some really valuable conversations. I'm looking forward to hearing from the community.
So am I.
Yeah.
Yes, and in terms of anticipated attendance, I thought the department did a really great job over the winter in getting the word out, engaging people, engaging a diversity of stakeholders, and that will be our aim with these as well, recognizing that the timing is short. As you said, it's still summer. I get it if this is not a top priority for community members, but I do think the more participation, the better. We've identified venues that can house a number of people, tried to provide a couple different timeframes to accommodate people's schedules. So we're hoping for robust participation, genuinely respectful and robust.
Member Cook.
Clarifying question. When you said the department's communication this winter, did you mean for the Project 2050 listening sessions or the listening sessions related to the Fairmount School?
The broad-based listening sessions.
That was for our strategic plan. It was just connected to the Project 2050. Yeah, it was.
It was the ones we hosted for Fairmount specifically.
No, I think she's speaking about the.
Okay.
I was, yeah.
Any other questions for Mary? Member Speed.
So I want to transition a little bit from, take a little bit of an aside here with the planning for our strategic planning, something that I think is important to include that we haven't discussed publicly or in any of these meetings. And it does relate back to a discussion that we had just earlier tonight, right, with handbooks. And that's doing a brand evaluation. I think it's really important to do that and include that within the strategic planning. Our current 10-year strategic plan, for instance, has multiple font types, multiple colors, graphics. And I think we want to have a unified approach to communications that we have within the district. Folks should walk into every school and know immediately they are in the right place, that the school is a part of a larger system. And I think branding actually does that and plays that role. So I think it would be important to include a brand evaluation to see how are we doing, right? Can we name what our district color is? Can we name what our district font is? Can we name what our the voice that we want to use when we're communicating, what the colors are? And I think we should have a writing style that reflects that strategic planning. So a strong brand can build that cohesive identity. It fosters pride, professionalism, community trust, as well as building recognition, building a strong emotional connection, and also easing transitions, right? So a big transition is something we're underway in right now. So having that recognizable brand will be important. It also can save money. And most importantly, it can decrease risk when it comes to cyber crimes. So I think it's important not to have a fractured brand, to make sure that we're looking at evaluating that and tying it into our strategic plan.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Member Speed. Any other questions? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, so just moving along on my report, in terms of the BHS Fairmount reorganization update. First, I just want to thank Josh, the maintenance crew, and all of our contractors and custodial crew, everyone who is helping to make this happen. I did walk through it one day last week, and it's been an amazing transformation. So I'm just going to highlight some of the things that have happened. And some of the things that are still in progress. So in terms of safety, technology, and communications, the intercom system has been separated. Security cameras have been added. Things that are still in progress, the fire alarm system getting updated, and the card access control, as well as training the administration on the emergency systems and the daily management of those new updates. We've got door installation and egress control. So the perimeter egress safety, existing double doors are secured with a panic hardware to protect the footprint and facility security. We are still in progress with the interior door fitting. That's currently going on. The wall construction and drywall and paint. The framing and drywall has been completed and the surface preparation. The painting is in progress of the new spaces. The classroom setup and floor restoration. The food service required a separate sink, so that's been installed. There's been subfloor prep and cleaning to follow up from the drywall dust that we know gets everywhere. And in progress will be the floor finishing, which will finish like we always do every year with the high gloss waxing. The playground and perimeter fencing, the exterior door has been installed that will lead directly from the new cafeteria space to the outside playground space has been installed. And we are working on that door access system and the playground equipment and fencing that is tentatively scheduled for this week with immediate assembly and being put together. So that's an update on that. And I just want to speak to the open houses. I know that was a question, and we had anticipated being able to offer multiple open houses, but in consideration of the teachers wanting to be able to set up their spaces and really have it ready for when parents walk through, we are holding off. We do have our August 27th date, and I have spoken to Principal Loring, who is more than happy to offer other times beyond that, but we really want to respect our educators and make sure that they can feel comfortable about presenting their space once it's already put together. And as we've mentioned multiple times this evening, they're still on summer break. So we're trying to be mindful of all of that, but I can definitely attest to the fact that they've done an amazing job transforming that.
Vice Chair Bryden?
Thank you. Thanks so much for that. Quick question. Has a date been set when the Fairmount educators will be able to get into set up their rooms?
I think we are looking at tentatively next week-ish. Yes, tentatively next week.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And we continued, were there other questions about that? Okay. Continuing to hire and onboard for 26-27. And of course, we did have our title application was submitted and our year-end reporting continues. And that's my report.
Any questions for Superintendent Robinson? All right, thank you. Moving on to, I think, reassignments.
Yes.
Yes, moving on to reassignments, Superintendent Robinson.
I'm reporting the following reassignments for the 26-27 school year. Jennifer Albert from grade 4 teacher at Mary Snow School to gifted and talented teacher at Mary Snow School. Tamara Scherer from special education self-contained teacher at Vine Street School to special education project transition teacher at Bangor High School. Kelly Hasselbrack from special education resource room teacher at Bangor High School to multilingual teacher district-wide.
Thank you. And we have a report of resignation. Superintendent Robinson.
I'm reporting the following resignations for the 26-27 school year. Alexander Randall, special education, self-contained at Fairmount School. David Morris, baseball coach, Bangor High School. Kathy Harris Medberg, assistant superintendent, central office.
Thank you. And next, we're moving to business action items. We have minutes from the regular meeting of July 15th, 2026. Superintendent Robinson.
I'm recommending approval of the draft minutes of July 15th, 2026, regular school committee meeting.
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All those in favor?
6-0. Thank you.
All right, next we have a financial report, the unaudited June 2026 financial report. Superintendent Robinson.
I'm recommending approval of the unaudited June 2026 financial report.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Member Speed.
Yeah, I just wondered after having Director Hale for a year now, the end of a fiscal year, moving into another fiscal year, is there any adjustments, any lessons learned? I don't mean to put you on the spot, and I'm sure we'll get it presentations in the future, but any reflections or things we should be aware of when we look at these reports moving forward?
So Director Hale just started in November, just so I can clarify that. It hasn't even been a year. No, just November. But I'll hand that over to her.
There's always adjustments and reviews done of everything and practices. And as you know, I've said before, if there's ever anything that you'd like to hear more about or more done on the report, I'm open to doing that as well, or more of an analysis of what you're reading. Then we can always willing to do that. So it's going to be the same report that you were getting last year. I think that's one of your primary questions. But yeah, we can talk about anything else that you'd like to see on that. You're welcome.
Thank you, Director Hale. Any other questions? Are we voting? Yes. All those in favor?
6-0. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, next we're moving on to personnel. We have administrator nomination. Superintendent Robinson.
I just want to thank everyone who's here being nominated this evening. I know it's a little longer meeting, but thank you for being here in attendance. It's meaningful. I'm recommending the following administrator nomination for the 2026-2027 school year with a 1-year probationary contract. Kelly Bean, interim assistant principal, James F. Dowdy School. And I'm going to ask Principal Mooring to come up and say a few words. Introduce, maybe she can just stand or raise a hand. That's fine.
We were very lucky to have a number of excellent applicants for the position. And as you know, there's a long history of outstanding assistant principals at the Dowdy School. So Kelly is right next in line. She wowed us in our interviews with the energy, enthusiasm, and preparation. She brings 10 years, more than 10 years experience in the classroom at both elementary and middle levels. And she just completed her master's in education from Maine.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
6-0. Thank you.
Congratulations and welcome. All right, next we have teacher nominations. Superintendent Robinson.
I'm recommending the following teacher nominations for the 26-27 school year with a 1-year probationary contract. I'll read through the list and then call administrators to come up for each of them. Sarah Voza, special education at Mary Snow School. Ashley Pillsbury, art teacher, Mary Snow and Abe. Brittany Deshane, pre-K teacher for our early childhood at Abe Lincoln. Joseph Garbowski, French teacher, Bangor High School, .8, JFDS, .2. David Carmack, science teacher, Bangor High School. Bridget Chalili, occupational therapist, Vine Street and 14th Street. I just did the final interview with Bridget today, and unfortunately there was a scheduling conflict, so she is not here, but I believe our other candidates are. So I will ask Principal Lord if you can come up and talk. Thank you.
Is it okay if I do two at the same time?
Perfect.
So Sarah Boza has been working at Mary Snow for the last year as an Ed Tech 3 in our special ed self-contained room. And she has a bachelor's degree and she's working on her master's through UMF in special education. She's going to be our new resource room teacher. She's did a fantastic job as an Ed Tech 3, so I'm sure she'll continue to do that in a teaching role. And then Erin and I found an art teacher, Ashley Pillsbury. She has a bachelor's degree in art. She has a certificate from Maine College of Art and a master's degree from Maine College of Art. She's been teaching in the school system since 2011 in various grade levels, and we are excited to have her with the experience that she brings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Principal Ireland?
So we're excited to welcome Brittany DeShane to Abraham Lincoln. She is going to be in our special ed pre-K room. So we're really excited because this is brand spanking new for everybody. But I'm also excited because we're very slowly bringing people from the county down. She's coming from Presque Isle. She has 2 years experience in self-contained in Presque Isle, but she has many years experience working with pre-K students. And so I thank her for her patience because the room is not ready yet. And she's been chomping at the bit to get some things into that room, but she's been super patient with us all. And so we're very excited to have her.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Dr. Butler?
It was definitely busy hiring season, up and down the line. I would say there were a couple of waves that emerged. One were people who were new to education, but were unusually prepared and ready. And the second was people who had some experiences, but had unusually deep and varied things that appealed to us. And that's certainly the case with David Carmack and Joe Grabowski. First, the David relationship started with him last spring as he thought about, contemplated, I guess, and took some action on a career pivot from working in a career in medicine and surgical practice. Thought always harbored a lifelong dream to teach. Lo and behold, the next time I connected with Dave digitally, we were talking about maybe placing him for student teaching. And I started looking at credentials. So I could do math, I could do social studies, I could do either of the two pathways, physical or life science. And there must have been some telepathy because I was hoping it would apply. I did apply and stood out immediately. He's new to the classroom, but like I said, unusually prepared. I insult his Air Force background by saying the Army motto, pre-prepared. And really stood out, really excited to have him here. And the other is second wave is Joe Grabowski, unusually deep and varied experiences. We're talking someone who can teach German, Spanish, French, New York, Maine, wherever you name it. Surface stood out immediately. So always draw good candidates, but these are particularly strong ones. We're happy to have them with us. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
She's not here. Does anyone have anything to say about our occupational therapist? I don't know. I didn't really. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Principal Sweat. She was lovely. I know that. Yes, lovely.
So Director McAlpine and I did interviews and we had some great candidates as well. Bridget stood out to us. She actually came dressed in Bangor red and white, so it was lovely. She's a Bangor resident, has been raising her kids here, and I believe her husband actually works in the system as well. She's coming kind of from a clinical therapy session that she's working in now. But she's excited to take on school-based occupational therapy, and I think she's going to be a great fit at Vine Street and 14th Street. So we're excited to have her.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I will move that we accept these nominations. I need a second.
Second.
All right. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
6-0. Thank you.
Congratulations and welcome. All right, next we're moving on to extra duty nominations. Superintendent Robinson?
Recommending the following extra duty assignments for the 26-27 school year. Gerald Crushing, Assistant Coach, Girls Soccer, Bangor High School. Thomas True, Head Coach, Varsity Baseball, Bangor High School.
We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
6-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we move to second reading of a revised policy GCEA, Substitute Compensation Guide. Superintendent Robinson.
I'm recommending approval of the second reading of revised policy GCEA, substitute compensation guide.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
6-0. Thank you.
All right, next we have introduction items. We have first reading of 2 revised policies.
We have
3.
Donations.
donations first.
Missed it. Thank you.
Mhm.
Apologies. We have donations first. Vice Chair Bryden, please.
Ready with my script. To Cameron Stadium from Hammond Lumber, building materials for Cameron Stadium having a total dollar value of $8,000. To Bangor High Boosters from Maine Fire Protection, building materials and labor to install a hood suppression system for their food trailer, having a total dollar value of $6,500. I move with gratitude to accept these donations.
Great, and I will second. Any questions or not concerns, any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
6-0. Thank you.
Okay, now we're moving to first readings.
Mhm.
Revised policy IHBAC, child fine for special education and/or related aids and services, and revised policy JLF, child abuse and neglect reporting, prevention, and education. Superintendent Robinson?
I'm recommending approval of the first reading of revised policies, revised policy IHBAC, child fine for special education and/or related aids and services, and revised policy JLF, child abuse and neglect reporting, prevention, and education.
We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Member Cook?
I have a couple thoughts on the reporting of child abuse and neglect. I know that there were some state employees working on a new training. Do you know if that's something that's been released or adopted yet by the district?
It hasn't been released yet.
Okay. So for current employees, one of the sort of issues that was brought up is sort of people conflating children living in poverty with neglect. And so I think if that's something that could be emphasized either by admin teams, social workers, whomever, that would be helpful. Secondly, employees hired mid-year, even though we only have a few openings for ed techs, which is fantastic. Does our onboarding process create a pathway that gets these people who we hire way down the line?
Yes, they're always allocated. There's time allocated, and we just added that even to our support staff contract last year to increase that amount of time so that they can ensure that those trainings are complete.
Okay, and then lastly, I have completed a school volunteer training, and I don't believe that it acknowledged this policy or the statutes related to it. And I think that if we look at some of the reporting that's happened across the state, sometimes it is guests to the school who are observing these things and reporting them. And I believe it does say that volunteers have to report within 24 hours. So if something could be changed within that volunteer training, I think that would be most helpful.
Yeah. Did you want to speak to that or no? Yes.
Yep, member.
Can I just say that we talked thoroughly about this and the trainings for volunteers when we were looking at this policy. The big policy change is obviously aligning it with that MSMA guidance because it involves, the mandated reporter piece applies to school personnel, volunteers within 24 hours and being the ones to make the report where before it would go through the principal or the administrator at the school. We talked about working with those volunteer trainings that happen at the start of the school year and really making sure that that information was very clear and available to all of the administrators that will be administering that. Also, because we have a policy now where you have, if you're moving into a new school, you receive a new training we also need to make sure that everyone who has been at a school for a number of years and needs an updated training to align with this. So that's going to be a big push from the administrators at the beginning of the year when you're doing your volunteer training and engaging folks to make sure that they do have that awareness that to be a trained volunteer, you have to receive this updated information. I will say that the biggest sort of holdup in training folks is that background check and references. That will not change in terms of going from school to school. They will just have to go to the school and meet with the administrator.
Clarifying question about that. We don't require background checks for our volunteers, correct?
We do.
We do.
We do.
Is that new?
No, that's been happening.
So even parent volunteers?
Yes.
Okay.
I get them. And there's a packet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah, I know that's always been something that every administrator does with every volunteer that comes through.
Mhm.
And the reference checks, and that always does take a long time because there's 3 of them.
Member Cook, go ahead.
Like a CHRC background check through the state. Criminal history record check
The criminal history record check is what I receive
for volunteers.
for volunteers.
Excellent.
Any other questions on these revised policies? All those in favor?
6-0. Thank you.
All right, we're moving on to committee updates. We have no appointments. So we move to representatives' reports. Do we have any representatives' reports tonight? All right. We have no reports. We move to questions and comments from the committee. Do we have any questions or comments from the committee? Member Sprague?
Thank you. Nice meeting tonight, Mr. Chair. There's a lot going on. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody in the room. Thank you for your patience. It's probably hard to be here on a summer evening. Thank you for being here, for the high level of engagement. Again, to Mary Budd, appreciate the presentation. It's always nice to have a former school committee member here. Thanks for being here. And I couldn't let one of those departures slip by. I want to recognize Dr. Harris Smedberg for many great years of service to the Bangor School Department. The question came up earlier about the transitions and the high intensity things that the school department's been dealing with over the last half decade or so. And we actually did have had 4 superintendents in about 5 or 6 years. And that's a lot of transitions for our staff and our families and for the school committee. But the one person that was consistent through all that was our assistant superintendent, who was one of those superintendents on an interim basis, helped lead us through the COVID years, and a very challenging time for the school department in a lot of ways. And I will always be appreciative as a parent at the time, and not a school committee member yet, but as a parent, that Bangor did do so well in the COVID years to maintain 5-day-a-week school from that 2020 to 2021 school year on, that not every school district did. And it was a complete game changer for a lot of families in Bangor. And I just applaud Dr. Harris Smedberg's commitment to, I'm going to say it, the excellence of the Bangor School Department for so many years and for being so true to that. And I'm really sorry you're leaving, and I wish you nothing but the best. And it's been great to work with you. And again, congratulations. It's hard to make a transition, but I wish you the best with it.
Thank you, Member Sprague.
Sounds like a round of applause is.
Sure. All right, Member Cook, I saw you. Yeah, please.
So Dr. Butler alluded to the hiring summer that it has been, and the varied experience and some career changers that are entering Bangor School Department. And so I'm wondering if Bangor is entertaining the idea of the portfolio pathway. It's currently sitting on the Attorney General's desk, but eventually will be an option for us. And given all of the advanced degrees that we have here, could be a great opportunity to expand the certifications of the educators we already have.
Yes, that's definitely something that's been discussed regionally as a superintendent group. Yes.
Any other comments from the committee? All right, I want to also recognize Dr. Harris Smedberg's service. We've worked together for 9 years, which is just remarkable. I just want to put into the record, I think you're a consummate professional. You're incredibly knowledgeable about the field of education. Your humble service to BSD has positively impacted thousands of students and families, and you should be forever proud of that. You're going to be greatly missed, and I'm very happy that I'll be bumping into you at UMaine hockey games. Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the committee? All right. Moving on to informational items. Just let me find my place. Important dates. Monday, August 24th, 2026, we have a listening session at 6 p.m. at the Bangor High School Library. Wednesday, August 26th, 2026, we have the beginning of the year ceremony at 8 a.m. at Peaks Auditorium, Bangor High School. Monday, August 31st, 2026, we have a listening session at 10 a.m. at the William S. Cohen School cafeteria. Tuesday, September 1st, 2026, first day of school. Tuesday, September 1st, 2026, also a listening session at 5:30 p.m. in the James F. Dowdy cafeteria. Wednesday, September 2nd, 2026, we have a listening session at 5:30 p.m. Downey School cafeteria. Thursday, September 10, 2026, we have a regular meeting here in the chambers at 7 p.m. And Wednesday, September 23rd, 2026, we have a regular meeting of the school committee, again, here in the chambers at 7 p.m. I have a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
6-0, thank you.
We are adjourned.